Now, joining us to talk about this terrible tragedy right here in the city is Cincinnati Mayor John Cranley. And Mayor, thanks so much for getting up early and joining us to talk about this. You've had more than 24 hours now to absorb what happened, talk to first responders. What are your thoughts this morning?
Look, this was one of the worst days in the history of the city. 16 people shot, going out to have a good time. In this country, excuse me, in this country and in this city, you should be able to go out and have a good time and not be subject to gun violence. So my heart and all of our prayers go out to the victims, to Spike's family, as well as the 5 that are in critical condition at UC Medical School. It's going to take, or medical hospital. It's going to take a long time to heal physically and emotionally for the victims and their families.
Yeah, there will be attention paid to the victims and their families and really the community, but what's going to be the first step? What's the first thing you have to do to try to prevent something like this from happening again?
Well, first thing we got to do is bring the shooters to justice. We really need, this is a moment for courage. We need people that were there to speak up and point out who the shooters were. Not one of those moments where people refuse to say who did it. We can't let someone who did this get away with it, or several people who shoot up in a crowded club to get away with it. So our police are working their tails off. Our first responders, I spent yesterday morning at CIS, they are on it. They're doing interviews, crime scene. And I'm confident we'll find these people and bring them to justice, but that's obviously step number one.
Cameo has been the scene of some violence before, not always in the club, but in that vicinity. What do you think needs to be done about that?
Well, there needs to be an investigation into that. I'm going to follow the police's lead on that one. The police had, because of previous incidents, had a relationship with the club, and the question is whether the protocols that they had agreed to have been followed or not. And I'm not going to prejudge that, but it's a very serious inquiry that will take place.
Right now, most of the actions being taken are police investigatory types of actions. What can be done by the city and leaders within the city to try to keep something like this from happening again?
Well, ultimately, it's a personal responsibility issue, a family issue. We've got to talk to our kids and to our loved ones about not resorting to gun violence, about not taking guns into clubs. We have to think about a new way of dealing with conflict resolution. All of those things can be done at a personal level, at an individual level, at a community level, at a faith-based level. And those are the things culturally I think we've got to shift long term. But right now we've got to help the victims heal, the community heal, emotionally and physically, and we got to bring the shooters to justice.
We only have a few seconds left, but I did want to ask you, both Governor John Kasich and Senator Rob Portman have extended and offered to help in any way that they can. Is there any way that the state and even the federal government can help in something like this, or is it something that you want them to help with?
Well, we appreciate and Governor called me and Senator Portman both called me personally yesterday, and I appreciate that. We know they're there. Our police work with their state authorities from time to time on if it becomes necessary. Big picture, there's too much gun violence. I think it's something we all have to respond to. Police, state, federal, local level. We were asked all day yesterday morning whether it was a terrorist attack. It wasn't, but to the people inside, it must have felt like a terrorist attack. What difference does it make what the motivation was? There's no reason that you should go to a club and be victim to gun violence.
All right, Mayor John Cranley, thank you so much for coming in and talking about this. And well, we will continue to cover it.